And we are live. Hello, welcome to the second annual Chapter 1 Young Writers Conference Yule Ball Young Writers Panel. So if you don't know who we are or what we do, we're Chapter 1 Young Writers Conference, and we do a in-person event every year in August in Chicagoland, so definitely check that out. And we also do little Twitter events over the course of the year as well. And this is our main one, our huge one, where we do giveaways and we bring in friends and we ask them questions and we have a good time. So just so everybody knows, we're doing a giveaway throughout this whole live stream. I apparently have echo, so I will try to address that as best I can. I don't have headphones, so that's a problem. But hopefully everybody can hear me for the most part. So I'm just going to carry on, and we'll see. We'll see if I can fix it as people are answering questions. But anyway, we are doing a giveaway. So if everybody could go to Chapter 1 Young Writers, or Ch1Conference, there is a post about this panel. And on the post about this panel, there is a link to a Rafflecopter where you can enter that giveaway. I'll be mentioning it throughout the panel in between questions and things. And yeah, that should be good. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists. We are going to talk to them in alphabetical order. And they're just going to give a little intro about themselves, and then we're going to get into questions. So I believe Briana's first.
Oh boy, okay. I'm Briana Morgan. I write young adult and new adult fiction, usually thrillers, but I'm kind of all over the place. My debut was sci-fi, post-apocalyptic.
Great.
And I'm Lynn Herman, and I write young adult fantasy and sometimes middle grade. And no, it's always fantasy. There's always like a spec fic element, but I switch between contempt fantasy and high fantasy if you want to get like really specific.
Okay, is it me now? Is that how the alphabet works? Okay.
Yes.
I'm Hannah Moscowitz. I am the author of the young adult books Break, Invincible Summer, Gone, 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 Teeth, Not Otherwise Specified, History of Glitter and Blood, and Jenna Finn with Kat Helgeson, and the middle grade novel Zombie Tog and Work Impossible. Oh, and 3 is my most recent YA. I have another book about sea monsters coming out next year. I sold my first book when I was 17, and I'm 25 now, so I've been doing it for a little while, but I started out when I was young. So if you have questions about being young and getting started, I can help you out.
Well, thank you.
Hi, I'm Joan. I'm also a young adult writer, and yeah, I tend to mostly have spec fic in my writing, so either fantasy or sci-fi. And currently a college student, so I think everyone else has graduated.
I'm back in school now, so I like anti-graduated.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that makes me feel better, but yeah, I'm a junior right now in college, and yeah. So
That's wonderful. So if anybody doesn't know who I am, I have you beat Joan. I'm actually a freshman in college.
Oh.
So I'm the small one. I'm also the small one on the Chapter 1. I'm the small one on the Chapter 1 team as well. I write. I dabble. I'm a creative writing major. Right now I'm very much inundated with homework, so I haven't been doing much now. I'm not agented. I'm not published outside of like the Chapter 1 Con anthology and some literary magazines and stuff. So your advice will be helping me as just as much, if not, yeah, just as much as it'll be helping our audience. So thank you. All right. So could I ask my panelists really quickly if you could go find, if you don't have headphones with a microphone, could you maybe search for one quickly, because we're having a really hard time. We're having people telling me that they cannot hear us.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I definitely do not have anything.
Okay.
I don't at my parents' house, so they don't
Just
have it.
yell. Just be very loud.
I hope that these work.
I will be loud.
It is possible we will just be very, very difficult to understand.
Oh god. All right. Let me put this in.
I'm sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. Every year it's something new, I feel like.
I can try to talk slower too. I know I talk real fast.
I do too. I think we're the ones that are going to be having the most issues too. So
I don't
I
even
could
know
just
if these have a microphone, but I'm hoping they do.
excuse
I
me.
can
Can,
hear
can
you
just
better.
and I'll just sign.
can anybody still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
I can hear you fine. I haven't had a problem.
Yeah, I haven't
Right,
had problems with
nobody.
anything.
All right.
I've been
So
able to hear everybody.
Can you guys hear me?
everybody outside of the chat who's listening, we can all hear each other. So this is a you problem. Not just saying. I know this is a public chat done for your entertainment, but this is totally your fault.
Fix yourselves.
Fix yourself. Start with the man in the mirror.
I'm just saying.
All right.
All right, so okay, many people tweeted, and by many I mean 2, have tweeted that they can hear us just fine. So I'm gonna like
Okay,
their
good.
tweets.
Oh,
We are
good.
back. You're gonna like their tweets, and then we are going to proceed. So anybody who's having problems, just like if you didn't catch something that one of us said, just tweet on Twitter, and hopefully someone will respond with, "Hey, they said this." All right. So let us begin with our first question, which is one that I've selected. We're going to go to listener questions in a little bit. But the first one is just general. I would like to ask when you all first started writing. So like at what age and at what point in your life did you first decide that you wanted to write?
Oh, God. Okay. I guess I'm going first. Oh, okay. So I feel like I've been writing forever. I'm sure most of you are going to be like that. But we had this young writers competition when I was in elementary school. And if you wanted to participate, you could write a little story, and then the teachers would all pick, and the winners of each grade got to go to this little luncheon in the library, and you got to read your book to everybody and eat, and it was so precious. And I still have the T-shirt, but I think I won my first one of that in I think I was 7, so it feels like forever.
Wow. I literally have been trying to write a book since I learned how to read a book. So like 5 or 6. My first ever masterpiece was a novel I wrote and illustrated about a squirrel that hibernated, woke up and was like, nah, and went back to sleep. And I stand by that. Squirrels also don't hibernate, but I didn't know that.
Relatable.
That's perfection. So like everybody else, I've been doing it since I could form letters. But could you turn off your mic when you are not speaking to cut down on echo? I can try. I probably should have done that out loud. I have no idea how to do that, but I will attempt.
It's so if you like put your cursor over the screen, there should be like a microphone with a little slash in it.
Oh shit, okay. Yes, I will do that. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so that should solve our problems. So
it's all me. I'm all the problems.
you're good. While you're speaking, it's not an issue though, so just carry on.
Oh, okay. So I've been writing since I could form letters. My sister taught me to read, actually, my big sister, when I was 3. But I started trying to pursue publication when I was in 5th grade, and they read us the Andrew Clements book, The School Story, which is actually, it's a fantastic lesson on how publishing works.
Mm-hmm.
And so my friend decided, who is still my best friend to this day, decided she was going to be my agent and I would be the author just like that. And that never materialized, but that got the idea in my head. And I started querying agents when I was 15.
Wow.
And then signed with my agent the next year. So I queried, I think, 7 books before I queried one that was good enough. But I started out young. I was like checking my email between classes and shit. So okay, and now I'm muting my microphone. Goodbye.
I feel like I started much later than you guys, but I think I really started writing seriously in 8th grade because I really got into fan fiction then. I wrote like 140,000 words for Spirit Away, and that's how I really got into.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. I was so sad by the ending, so I was like, I have to write an ending where Chihiro and Haku have like a good ending, so yeah. But after that, I would say I started getting more into my like more original works when I was maybe in my sophomore year of high school. And yeah, since then I queried about 3 books before I found my agent. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys. I love hearing, that's one of my favorite questions to hear and ask because there's such, everybody it feels like there's a lot of continuity and differences between everybody's stories. Like, it seems like, obviously, since you're all young writers, we all start young, but everybody has a different little inspiration. My second question is sort of in the same vein. I would like to ask, and some of you touched on it a bit, what was the title of the first story you were ever proud of? And what was it like?
Are we going with proud of or like ever finished? Because
like when you finished it, you were like, this is amazing.
Oh God. Okay. Well, probably before I knew any better, I would say one of my stories from elementary school. So I had this series that was, I think the girl's name was Skyla Dame. And it was just like this, she was just like a fairy, this badass fairy. And she went around and like fought people. That's all I remember about it. But I remember I wrote the first one and it was like her fighting a dinosaur. And that I don't remember anything about that. But I finished that book and I was like, this is gonna make me millions. But I was like 9, so no, definitely not.
Oh my God, that's so cute. Let's see. I was really proud of this at the time, and I'm so embarrassed by it now. But when I was the first novel, like the first full-length novel I ever finished, I was 17. It was my senior year of high school. I was procrastinating writing my college apps, so I wrote a book. And it was dystopian YA. There was a love triangle. There were somehow dragons. It was real bad, guys. But it was called Realm Walker, and I was so proud. And I thought I was gonna be the next Veronica Roth, because that was like who I really wanted to be at the time. And yeah, it was garbage. I never queried it, thank God. Oh my God. But I'm really proud that it's the first book that I finished, even though it was trash. And I'll probably read parts of it aloud on a panel sometime.
Okay, mine. Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Yeah. Fantastic. This was 6th grade, and I'd written a lot of stories, but I had this idea, and I was like sure of this, that for something to be a real book, it had to be 100 pages, and I was like, this is like the law of the land. So I had this composition book, and I numbered all the pages, and I got to 100 pages. And to do that, I had to stop using contractions near the end.
That's so cute.
But I did it. And it was called You Just Don't Get It. And it was about how it sounds. It was this girl and her family died in a plane crash.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Jeez.
And that's still basically what I write, to be honest. It's just angsty shit. But I was very excited to have written a real book because it was 100 pages. So there you go. And I finished it when we were on a school trip at Colonial Williamsburg, Maryland. So there you go. And
the first book that I was proud of was probably my second manuscript. Like Christine, is also a young adult dystopian around 2012-ish that I wrote it. And yeah, the title was called In Genocide, which probably doesn't make sense, but obviously in the book there are 2 groups of people. They're like genius prodigies who are called Ingenia, and then they're normal people, and they're just called normals. And yeah, so the book was called In Genocide. You could probably guess what it was about from the title. But yeah, I did not realize that it sucked until I sent out like 100 queries. So yeah, on one hand, it did give me the query experience and also helped me find my first critique partners, which was a really good experience. But it's definitely something that would need like major rewriting if it ever came back out. Yeah.
All right, thank you guys so much. So at this juncture, I'm going to remind everybody to go to chapter1conference.com and enter our Rafflecopter, because we're giving away really, really cool books. The first one I'm going to talk about really briefly is the one I'm the most excited about. If I could enter this is the one I would want. We're giving away a signed copy of Because of Winn-Dixie, and I love that book. So go, and what you do is you just sort of enter and you do various things to sort of get your name put into the Rafflecopter, and then we're going to pull 5 winners, and like if you're the number 1 winner, then you get to pick of all the books, and then it sort of goes down 1 to number 5. So that's a thing. It's happening. I hope you guys will participate. So I'm going to begin to ask for listener questions. I haven't seen any so far. If you guys want to sort of troll the tag a little bit to see if there
I
are any
think-
cool questions, we can go. But we could also do another pre-prepared question.
There's a question here
Yeah.
from Julia Byers. It says,
Oh,
if
there-
you guys could give any advice to your younger selves, what would it be?
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great one. Let's do that. Do you want to start and then we can go to
Oh.
Joan and then start over?
I
Mix
don't
it
have
up.
anything, but I will come up with something.
Okay.
If
Oh,
I could,
wait, is that me first? Or I zoned out.
That's okay. I was gonna say you, Hannah, and then we start over. with Brianna.
bye.
Okay. Advice, right, to younger self?
Yes.
Okay. Probably just like, I feel like everyone's gonna say this, but feel like that there is no deadline by which you have to like validate yourself by. And I guess like I always wanted to be that person who published before I graduated from high school, and obviously now this goal is published before I graduate from college. But just like realizing that like it's obviously like it's not good for yourself to set those deadlines, and it's not good for your creative process, and like things happen when they happen. And I'm really glad I didn't publish or get an agent when I was in high school, because my stuff then just wasn't ready, and probably a few years down the line, I'll look back at what I have now and realize like it was good that I didn't get published now either. So just like really embracing the process, especially when you're so young. At the same time, my biggest pet peeve is when people say, oh, like you still have so much time, like don't worry, like you're young. Like we all know we're so serious about this. So especially when we've been writing since like you guys started writing when you were kids. Like for me, for 5-6 years now, it feels like, no, like I can do it by this deadline, but it's just not like good for you. Yeah.
It's true.
Okay. Would
So,
Brianna like to go next?
I
or-
can go. I'm totally
Okay.
ready.
I'm actually going to
Wonderful.
off of that a little because my
Oh,
first
yeah, Hannah.
out a week before I started college.
Mhm.
And I got a lot of shit for it at school. And I had people who said some really mean things to me about it.
Really?
I was in a class at the time. So I started off at Brown
Mhm.
and I stayed for one semester because it was the worst. But so I took a class that was writing for children and young adults. And the first day we go around and we say, why are you here? And my book had just come out a week ago. I was so proud. So I said, my book came out a week ago. We wrote our first essay for the class and I got an A on it. And all the comments were from my teacher about how inappropriate she thought it was that I had bragged about getting my first book published.
Oh my gosh.
And I sat in my
awful.
room and I cried. And
God.
I had people in that class who always say stuff to me like, well, aren't you going to be really embarrassed about that stuff when you get older? Aren't you going to be so embarrassed that the world has seen you grow when you were a kid? And I'm not going to say that I haven't gotten better than I have since my first book. I think that every writer should improve regardless of what age they start out with. I hope that every book of mine is better until I'm, 80,000, but I'm going to live to be 80,000. But no, I'm not embarrassed of it in the slightest. I think that writing when you're young, you get a really good, unique perspective that you forget as you get older. I had a book that I was querying around a year ago, and people kept saying that my teenagers sounded too old. And I was like, this has never been a problem before. My characters just talk how I talk. And then I was like, no, I'm 25 now. They don't talk how I talk anymore. And that's harder now than it was then, because they used to just talk how I talked. So there's definitely advantage to being young. So my first advice is don't let people tell you that you're not good enough because you're young, because you very well might be. My second advice is to enjoy the parts of being young that are good and not let people tell you that the parts that suck do not suck. Because
Definitely.
I love doing theater now. I audition for theater and I'm not good enough to get in. In high school, you could just get in and be in the chorus, whatever. But you don't have those opportunities anymore. And I really wish that I had relished that more at the time. At the same time, there are parts of being a teenager that are horrible. And there are adults who will try to downplay that and tell you that it's not horrible and it's the best days of your life. And screw them. Parts of it are terrible. They are terrible. And don't let people try to tell you that they're not. And if you have mental health issues, get help. Because if I had been on meds in high school, it would have been better. So that as well. That is my advice. My advice to my younger self really is go to a fucking psychiatrist. Because it's terrible. That's my real advice. And now I will shut up. Muting microphone.
Brianna, I know you had something, and then Christine.
Yeah. So I think part of my advice to my younger self kind of goes along with like what Hannah was saying, and that's sort of to calm down, because high school me was a spaz, partially because I needed to be medicated, but also I was just so caught up in comparing myself to everyone else. Like, you know, I was watching some people get publishing deals at like 16, and I had still never written a full novel. So I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to make it. I'm going to be like 47 before I write a book, and no one's going to even read anymore at that point. So I just would like spiral. Yeah, it was terrible.
No, that's exactly how I feel.
So then I was just like, what? Why even bother? Why bother writing? So then I would just not write. Or my other piece of advice would be to actually do the work. Because I see this mistake in a lot of young writers, I spent so much time like on Pinterest reading different like articles about outlining methods and different productivity methods for writers and all this. And eventually it got to a point where, you know, I was reading about writing more than actually writing, which is not the point. If you want to be a writer, you have to write. You can't just like absorb it through osmosis. So yeah, I think my two biggest pieces of advice would definitely be to calm down, focus on yourself, try not to pay attention to anyone else, and just do the work. Because if you put in the work, it's going to pay off eventually.
Oh man, everyone has made such good points. I'm like, how come I have to go last on this one? But I guess something that I haven't really seen touched on is when I was younger, I mean, my writing was basically like, I was scared to write my more original ideas. I was trying so hard essentially to do what like you call like writing to the market. Like I would try to write books like other books because I thought that that was the way to get published. And it took me a good like 2 or 3 years of writing manuscripts that I just didn't care about enough to revise to realize that that was because I wasn't telling my stories. Oh, and also I would have given my younger self the advice of maybe to examine more closely why I kept on writing FF relationships when I claimed to be straight, but that's more personal. Guys, there was literally a scene in one of my books where 2 female characters made out in a closet.
I'm extremely excited about this. I had to unmute.
That's a metaphor if I have ever heard
I know,
one.
my subconscious was screaming.
Let me out.
Christine, I have a Stonewall honor, okay, that I got for a book that I wrote when I still thought that I was straight.
Oh my God.
So let's just...
That is
That's
some
what
right there.
Luckily, by the time I had to get the award and give a speech, I was no longer under this delusion. But like at the time that I wrote the book, yeah, I was straight. I was just really interested in that stuff.
That would have been bad because you would have been like, I don't know why I'm here or why I have this award. Thanks, guys.
I don't know, actually, like, I feel like I maybe should have been using writing as like a bit of a self-examination. Like, look at everything you're working out. Oh, and also that it's okay that I didn't. Like, it was okay not to be published at 17. It was okay not to have an agent at 18. It's okay that I just got my agent like a month ago, and I'm really happy that it took this long. I'm really proud of all I learned and all the critique partners I found. My agent is Kelly Sonek from the Andrea Brown Literary Agency, and I love her. Oh my God, I love her
Congrats.
So Joan and I have the same agent.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cute. Agent Sims.
Hey, friends. A, I love you guys. You're my favorite people. This is such a great conversation. B, somebody said critique partner, and somebody asked a question about how you guys get critique partners.
Oh.
So I would like to hear you guys answer that, because I have a weird critique partner story that's not necessarily repeatable. And so I'd like to hear stories maybe that are repeatable.
Do you want me to start?
Sure. If you
Okay.
could go alphabetical this time, that would work.
Yeah, I found my critique partner, well, all of my critique partners I've found through Twitter, just tweeting about struggling as a writer, as you do, and sort of adding the am writing hashtag or am editing usually, because, you know, if I get bored, I'll scroll through there and I'll like a tweet if I'm like, that's so relatable, or I'll post a GIF, whatever. So for me, I don't know, I didn't try that hard, and I feel kind of bad about it because I hear about a lot of people who have to like, they go to like specific websites for it and submit applications and all that, and I just kind of didn't. I was lucky enough to find some people who get my thought process and who I mesh really well with, and also are good at pointing out things in manuscripts that I have missed, such as giant plot holes. My editor for the book I'm working on right now, Reflections, she's she's amazing because she caught all the stuff that I hadn't even realized because I was just automatically filling things in. Because I'm like, oh, I know that, so I don't need to write that. But your readers don't know that. So I would definitely advocate for using Twitter.
So I have a gang of critique partners who are watching this right now.
Hi guys, tweet at us.
They have been messaging me. They're trying to
that's so cute.
break on this chat. But I love them a lot, and I found them through, so some of my favorite authors do like critique partner matchups, and one of those people is Susan Dennard, and she had like a critique partner matchup forum a really long time ago, like maybe 2 and like a bit years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. Oh my God. When I was a junior in college, so I was Joan's age. And I posted like a profile, and a lot of people contacted me, and some of them were really cool, but nothing ended up working out. And then 9 months later, I get this email out of the blue from my now critique partner, Erin, and she wound up introducing me to all of her friends, and we all became like critique partners together, and there were like 15 of us, and it's great. And I'm not just saying that because they are watching. We're really lucky. Most of us write young adult fantasy, and most of them have read the book that got me an agent, and I don't think I would have like been able to handle, like, I was lucky enough to participate in Pitch Wars this year, and I really loved being part of that contest, but I don't think I would have been able to handle the really intense workload and like just like the emotional strain of it without their support. Like, I think with the best critique partner relationships, it goes beyond just being about the writing and becomes about you becoming dually invested in each other's careers and each other's like personal well-being. Like, basically you become friends too, because then you trust them. And when you trust someone with your work, I mean, you guys know how it feels. It can be really scary, but when you learn how to trust someone and they trust you back, the ways that you grow as a writer from the things that they say and the things that they teach you are completely invaluable. So if I know Maggie Stiefvater does one. I know Susan Dennard's forum is still active. I know there are a lot of CP matchups that run on Twitter. Like, I would highly, highly recommend it, especially for young authors, because it can be hard to find people who take you seriously, and finding other young authors is the best way to do that.
Yes, I completely agree with that advice as well.
I don't use critique partners.
That's okay too. Like,
Yeah,
I typically don't either.
I'm a
besides
big
my
proponent
people.
of there is no one correct way to write a book.
Absolutely.
When I was first starting out, I absolutely did, and they were really, really useful. There's really no way for me to talk about this and not sound like an asshole. At this point, I've written like 25 books, so I pretty much know how to write the book that I want to write. Whether that's a good book or not is completely a different matter of discussion, but I know how to get what I want the book to look like as a whole out on the paper. Plus, as Joan knows, our agent is extremely editorial. So when I send him a draft, we edit it for 7 years anyway. So it's not like nobody ever sees it. But like, I have my best friend who should be watching this, or I'm going to kick her ass, who I write with, Kat Helgeson. We have a book together. But sometimes I send her passages, but it's just me going, tell me I'm good, tell me I'm good, tell me I'm good, tell me I'm good. Like, I don't want feedback. So
That's how I am too.
I tell her she's good. So yeah, I don't do critique. So yeah.
That is okay. That is that's a good, for this question especially, that's a good thing to let people know, is like, all right, if you don't want to be sharing your work with people all the time.
You don't have to do anything, I think, is
Exactly.
like my favorite writing advice. You have to do something, but like, there's nothing that's required.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a way to just shake around the computer and make it spit out letters and get the great American novel, right? Like, there's a way to do everything.
Can be done.
It can be done. So just whatever works. All right, bye.
Bye.
So I've been to Susan Dennard's forum too, and also like Twitter, and I've been like a bunch of places finding critique partners. And I guess I'm someone who's actually moved through quite a few critique partners, so I really wish I had like Christine's gang, which I feel like I secretly stalk sometimes. I also know Erin.
We're really loud on Twitter.
But yeah, so I definitely have gone through critique partners, and it's not because like anything terrible happened. I feel like sometimes you hear critique partner horror stories, and that's just not the case with me. It's mostly because points in my life, I've been busy, and my critique partners have been busy sometimes, and sometimes we might work together on one project, but then by the time I have another novel ready, our schedules don't fit anymore, or my writing has changed. For all these kinds of reasons, I've been through a lot. But I would say that most recently, I have been working with a lot of people who I connected with during Pitch Wars. So I was part of the 2015 class, and it was just really cool being part of a community where everyone took writing so seriously. And at that point, like, I didn't feel that self-conscious about my age. I know in the beginning when I was finding critique partners, I kind of felt like, oh my God, like I was just a high schooler and I was critiquing with people who were like 30 or 40. But at this point, like in Pitch Wars, we were all united just by our common dream of getting published, that age wasn't like a factor anymore. So now I have people who read who are in their 30s and people who are college students like me. So it's all good.
All right, thank you. And once again, at this interlude, shameless plug for our Rafflecopter. Go to chapter1conference.com and find the link and click on the link, and you will win lots of fun books. Let me find really quickly. I know one of the books is called Pawn. I haven't read all of the books that we're giving away, but I know that they're all really, really cool. Our friend Brett provided them for us. So one of the books available is called Pawn. Go Google it, see if you want it, and then go to our Rafflecopter and check it out. So that would be fantastic. All right, we have lots and lots and lots of user questions. So I'm going to just start to go to those instead of doing my pre-prepared ones. And our friend Christina asked, what are your greatest sources of inspiration?
Are we still going alphabetical?
Sure.
I pull inspiration from a lot of different places. It's definitely changed for me. I used to get most of my information from movies and plays, and now it kind of comes from movies, plays, books, random episodes of podcasts I like, which is weird. But I've pulled from stuff you missed in history class, stuff mom never told you. I've pulled from stuff you should know. I guess all the How Stuff Works podcasts. This American Life, that's another good one. And I find a lot of inspiration on Pinterest too. I have mood boards for all my books, and I just kind of riff off of those all the time. So I guess it's just all over. I always feel a really powerful urge to write after I see like a really good movie or a good play. So like I got to see Hamilton last month, and I promise if I had been like at home near my computer, I would have just blown it up. I felt so alive.
Me too.
Oh my God, Hamilton, write like you're running out of time is my motto. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
I have a necklace that my significant other got me for our anniversary, and
Aww.
It is lovely, and it says write like you're running out of time on it, and when he gave it to me, I just started bawling. It was very elegant. But anyway, where do I get inspiration from? I don't like know how to answer the question of where I get like my ideas, because I just get them, but I do know how I nurture them. And I do that through Pinterest, which I have like a terrifying obsession with. The Pinterest board for my book is over 1,000 pins long. Because I have like very strong aesthetics for my books in my head. And also music is a really, really big one for me. I make really intense playlists that kind of outline stories for me and help me brainstorm. I've cracked so many plot points with the perfect song. So I try to like encourage these things, and also sometimes just handwriting, like free writing with characters and situations that I don't know how to solve, just letting my brain play with it is a really big thing that inspires me. And I've also learned that what recharges my inspiration wells is more than anything reading books, and not necessarily books in my genre, because I try not to get too close to what I'm writing sometimes if I'm like too deep in the woods, but like reading something completely different. Like, because I write YA fantasy, I'll read literary fiction or I'll read nonfiction, and it will help me. It will like unclog my brain.
Because I write contemporary, a lot of my stuff is very strongly autobiographical at this point. When I was starting out, I wrote a lot of like stuff that was further away from me, and then I don't know if I got lazy or I got brave or both, but it's very more, I'm going to write about myself. So I write about, bisexual girls who are obsessed with musical theater and have eating disorders, or I write about, shit like that. Or my co-write with Kat was just literally the two of us writing our story. I'm in a polyamorous relationship, so now I'm going to write a book about polyamory. Like it's easy to connect the dots. The one right now was, I needed to write something. And I went to see Dirty Dancing, which is my favorite movie of all time. And it was in theaters for the 30th anniversary. And I thought, well, Baby has that speech with her dad. And she says, I'm going to cry talking about it. She says, if you love me, you have to love all of me. And I'm like, how great would this be if she were gay? Aww. So now I'm just writing Dirty Dancing with lesbians. Yeah. And
I've been liking all of those tweets.
Oh my God.
It's literally this Dirty Dancing with lesbians, right? And the way that I get myself to keep writing it is by posting shit about it all the time on Twitter, and people like it. And I go, oh, people like me, now I have to write.
Good, I feel like less of a creep now.
I'm good, tell me I'm good. It's
okay,
that.
I'm gonna go find all these tweets and like them.
I posted excerpts that you could literally reconstruct the entire book and sell it. Like, I'm such an attention whore. It's unnatural. So that's how I keep myself going. It's just a constant stream of forced positive reinforcement that I just force everybody around me into giving me all of the time. So that, I often will just make lists of topics that I like or that I'm interested in, and then I'll be like, shit, I wrote that already. I wrote that. So like, in terms of finding new things to write about, I often have a hard time. And in terms of inspiring myself to actually get the work done, I rely on a stream of constant, insincere compliments. And off we go.
This is gonna sound cheesy, but I tend to get inspiration sometimes from dreams, which makes me sound like Stephanie Meyer. But for my earliest books, like I have really weird, really crazy dreams. So sometimes I'll just like take a particular moment or a feeling from the dream, and that will become a story idea. And I also have story ideas where they honestly just came out of nowhere. So yeah, like I don't really have a hardcore method of finding inspiration, but as to like what keeps me going or what helps me work through scenes that are tough, echoing what others have said, like listening to music helps a lot, handwriting it out, also positive validation, sending excerpts to people and saying, hey, is this good or not? So yeah, those things definitely help. And yeah, like if I find a piece of music, I'll just play it on repeat. And also sometimes I'll read something as I'm writing, not necessarily something that is very close to what I'm writing, but that evokes the aura that I'm kind of going for. So I wrote like this light science fiction last year, and I kept on reading The Winter's Curse over and over again, even though like that is obviously not science fiction, but there's just something about the mood that the book created that I really wanted to convey in my book. So yeah, I guess a theme for me is just doing something over and over again, whether that's listening to the same thing or just reading the same thing as I'm trying to get into the zone.
Thank you. I loved all of this so much. You guys are great. I'm just going to keep saying that, honestly. So we have a question from our friend Brett, and this is one my roommate actually sort of asked about this too, about like world building and genre. So Brett asked, why do you write in the genre that you write in? And I'm going to sort of add a little bit of like a caveat and like, how do you do world building within that genre? So like, if you write contemporary, like how do you do contemporary world building?
I feel like I'm a really bad person to start here because I'm all over the place. Like I said,
okay too. Pick a favorite.
Okay. So, God, I don't even have a favorite. That's terrible.
It's okay.
Yeah, so my debut was young adult post-apocalyptic, and mine was still, it wasn't like super far in the future or anything like that. So I mostly pulled from real life and just threw in a couple of other things. That was really a really minimal world building process. And the book I'm working on now, which is Reflections, is young adult urban fantasy, and it has almost killed me because I've never really written fantasy before. And having to come up with, so there's shapeshifters in the book, but I didn't want to just use any shapeshifters, so I sort of made my own shapeshifters. Like I pulled from one source, and I'd pull from a different source, and I'd twist things around, things like that. And as I started doing that, I kept thinking of more things I still had to figure out. Like I'm like, okay, well, how did they get their abilities and what are the limits? And it was really hard because I boxed myself into a corner in some places because I just throw a plot point out there and then realize, oh crap, I made it a rule that they can't do that. So I don't know, world building is really hard for me. I've written blog posts on how I did it for this book, but I don't know. I don't know how anyone writes fantasy. Kudos to you guys, because for me to invent like an entire world, I think I would scream. I stick to mostly reality based. So
okay, so I am garbage at world building, but I've only ever written fantasy. So I mean, I call myself garbage at world building. It took a couple of books for me to figure out a method that made that work, that like forced me to like, you know, call out my own trash. And I should have said take out the trash. And I what I do is, so my current book is called The Devouring Grey. It's a contempt fantasy, and I love contempt fantasy so much. Oh my goodness. And so I knew that what I needed to do after the first draft was like just sit down and force myself to create a series Bible. And so I wrote like 20,000 words of rules and backstory and history and stuff that like maybe the reader doesn't need to know all of this, but I really needed to know all of it. I needed to fully understand how this system worked so that I could play with it as much as I wanted and know what was possible and what wasn't when I was figuring out how to revise the book. And that's held for like the drafts that have followed. And that's my new thing now. Now when I work on something new, I'm like, okay, I'll give myself the first draft to like mess it all up. I'll do preliminary world building, but after between drafts 1 and 2, I will figure everything out. I forced myself to do it. This took like a month, by the way. This was like not an easy task, but I think it saved me like a year of work in revisions. So I'll take it.
I was talking the other day on Twitter about how when I read Harry Potter, I skip all of the long paragraphs, and I've never felt as if I missed anything. So that's basically my thoughts on world building, is I don't give a shit. I wrote one high fantasy book, and it was illustrated, which was really convenient because I would literally just write insert map here and make the illustrator come up with all of this shit, like how the place looked, because I'm not visual. It doesn't work for me. And I basically write contemporary to avoid world building. I try to set it over the summer so I don't have to write them in school because that feels a little bit too much like world building. I don't like anyone to meet any new people. I like everyone when the book starts, and I prefer for nothing to happen over the course of the book. So that makes my life easier. I don't like world building. I don't like reading it. I don't like writing it. I just, I'm sorry. I write books that are 50,000 words long because they are entirely dialogue, and it's just sitting around talking about feelings.
You should write plays.
I should what?
You should write plays.
write plays.
I should write plays. I love plays.
Yeah. I'm not telling you not to write books. Keep writing books too.
Yeah, you
should
bitch. I actually tried to write a TV show pilot once, and I think I got like 3/4 of the way through the episode. Yeah, I had a book that failed, so I was like, maybe it would make a TV show. I don't know. I thought I could do that, but it was fun to write, actually. But I think writing plays is even harder than writing books.
It's pretty tough.
Yeah. This is bad enough. I don't really enjoy writing or publishing or anything to do with that. I enjoy panels. I do it all as an excuse to do this. So really getting involved in any sort of other writing other than what I have to do sounds horrible. But yeah, basically short books, no world building, no plot. Nobody grows, nobody learns any lessons. No descriptions of what the characters look like. I don't give a shit. Sit around, talking heads, talk about their feelings, and they're lesbians. Hannah Moscowitz, buy my books. Hey, and the microphone goes off.
She's out.
So I guess I feel like I don't really have that much of a method for world building. Yeah, I don't have anything like writing out all the information beforehand, even though I probably should. And for me, like the level of world building each book needs kind of depends on the overall feeling of the story I'm trying to tell. So sometimes if I really want a story to have a bigger scope or have like a more epic feel go for it, then I will have those paragraphs that Hannah probably skips over of like just description and like descriptions of clothing and food and things like that. But sometimes if I really want to write something that's just more character driven and is more minimalistic, then I will actually forgo having too much of the world clutter, because sometimes I also find myself skimming over that, even though I think it adds a lot of texture. So I guess with like the manuscript I'm working on right now, I'm actually in the process of rewriting it, and one of the things I've been doing as I've been rewriting it is trying to give the world more texture, because it's a fantasy world that's inspired by Chinese culture. So the heart of it always had the Chinese culture in it, but it was missing a lot of what I call like the surface details of just like terminology or descriptions, or just like a lot of those, like what I would originally call flowery things, they're just missing. But I've noticed that they do add so much. So I guess like honestly, some people start from writing the surface things first, and then they get to the core of the world, and other people do it in reverse, and there's no like right or wrong way of doing it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to pull up the question I was going to ask because I just clicked away from it and I shouldn't have. Where is he? We had a questioner that I have never heard of before, which surprised me because a lot of times we get like regulars on here, which is totally great as well. Oh, here we go. His name is Briana Morgan, and
That's my dad.
Oh, it's your dad? That's okay. It's a question for you, which makes sense. Which professors and teachers from college and high school influence you, and how?
Okay.
Yeah, and I also had another question from my boyfriend, actually, about like what your feelings are about college and writing and how to pick a major when you're a writer and things like that. So you talk about high school college teachers and high school college experience.
Okay, yeah, I can bring that all together, definitely. Yeah, God, Dad. Anyway, yeah, I wrote a lot in high school, but I didn't really do anything at school with writing in terms of, we didn't have any clubs or anything for that. I had maybe one or two teachers who knew I wrote, but we didn't really talk about it that much. So high school for me was just it was very me focused in terms of my writing education. I spent a lot of time reading and, developing. And so then college, I started out as a psychology major. I was a double major in psych and criminal justice. Yeah. And then I was in class when I was supposed to be taking notes. I was working on books. So I was like, oh, how about maybe we switch? And then I'm sure my parents wept because they saw all the money I was throwing away. But I was so much happier when I switched. And I think from my first intermediate creative writing class onward, I was just like, holy crap, because my first professor, he really emphasized the doing the work and making writing a habit, because I for the longest time, I thought you had to be inspired to write anything. So like, oh, well, I can't write today. I'm not inspired. But that's not how you finish a book. So he really emphasized, like, I remember he made us sign a contract with ourselves. It was just like, I will pledge to write X amount of words a day. And mine was 500. And back then I was like, oh my God, that's so many words. So he was a huge help. And then I was lucky enough, I had this professor my junior year. His name was Peter Selgin. He was really tough in class. He was tough on me and he was tough on just about everyone. But during office hours, he would specifically pull from my story and tell me what was working and what wasn't and why. So that I thought that was really helpful. He was great about telling me not only, what I was doing right, but what could be better and how to fix it, which no one had ever really done for me. For the longest time, people would just be like, oh, this is great, and then just leave me to fend for myself. So college was great for me. Also, I went to a smaller school, so it was very workshop-based in my class sizes. As I got higher, like from junior year to senior year, I think the class size went down to like 15 people in a class.
Nice.
So yeah, it was really individualized attention, and that was just really nice. The only thing I'd say I didn't really like about my college experience is they were big on not having us write genre fiction. They tried to force everyone to do literary fiction, and which is hilarious to me now because I write genre fiction exclusively. So yeah, I definitely don't think you need formal education to be a writer. I'm sure everybody can probably echo that sentiment, but I'm sure I would still be writing if I hadn't majored in creative writing. It definitely did help, but I know it's not for everybody. So yeah, that was a long answer, but I hope I answered everything there.
No, it's great. Thank you.
Wow, that was super thorough. I am going to start with something you touched on at the end, which is that people don't always get young adult or genre fiction. And if you're a talented writer and you're young and you're watching this, someone in some class is going to ask you why you don't just write literary fiction.
Absolutely.
Virtually guarantee it. And that has basically been the crux of my experience with formal education in writing, which is that I would describe the various teachers and professors who have dealt with me and my writing ambitions as encouraging but bemused. Sometimes more bemused than encouraged, sometimes more encouraging than bemused. It varied. And it took me, I wouldn't say, it wasn't like harmful or anything, because I honestly didn't really give a shit. I knew what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to write this and you can't talk me out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a particularly assertive person, but this was like the one thing I've always known, that this is what I want to do and this is how I want to do it. And so I was a creative writing major in college too. And I think in the beginning, I went to a school that didn't have a huge like humanities cohort. So I had like the same two professors for all my creative writing classes. And in the beginning, they were both like, you should write literary fiction and think about MFAs. They came around. They let me do my senior thesis as a bunch of weird YA magical realism stories. They like kind of were like, I would have called it giving up on me, but I could tell they were proud. I emailed them when I got representation and they were both like, we're not surprised, which was really sweet. But I had to make my own way. I don't particularly think that the college workshop environment I think it taught me how to defend my writing. But I don't know if it necessarily, I'm sorry, this isn't like the most positive answer, but I do think it's important to understand why you write what you write and learning how to stand by that decision, because not everyone's going to get it. And also the kind of stuff I write too, because sometimes I used to be scared of being too weird or too like niche. And then I was like, I don't care. This is what makes me happy. So, I think that like people in positions of authority can be really wonderful, and I've talked to people who've had really wonderful experiences with like mentorship on the collegiate or even high school level, but that wasn't my experience and it didn't matter. So it works both ways.
Well, if you thought that wasn't a positive answer, kidding. I hated college. I was an English major. I was definitely not a creative writing major. I majored in American literature after 1900, so basically the easy stuff. It was a lot anyway. So I took one creative writing class. They had us go around the room. This was after my experience at Brown, okay? So I transferred to my new school. I take a creative writing class. We go around the room, say what we write. I say children's book, and he goes, oh, are you published? Which was not something that at that point I was willing to talk about, but he kind of put me on the spot, so I was like, yes. And he asked me what I was working on right then, and I said a zombie book. And he said, oh, I'm going to write a zombie book after I finish my real book. So then I put his name in the acknowledgments of my zombie book. Fuck you, Tom. This is how I feel about college. This is how I feel. English classes were good because I read a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have read otherwise. But the most influential class that I took one called Representations of the Holocaust in Literature, which was phenomenal. And so I wrote stuff that I wouldn't have written if I had not read the book that I wrote in college, but I didn't write the stuff that I would have written if I had read other books, you know? So it's like, wherever you go, you're going to have experiences and you're going to have things to write about. So it's just a matter of what you happen to collect. I could list the names of teachers who were influential, but that's not going to mean anything to anyone. So whatever. David Wyatt, like you don't give a shit. So whatever.
Yeah, I guess I'm the only person here who isn't majoring in anything like English or creative writing related. So yeah, I'm majoring in psychology, and I'm probably going to get a minor at this point in East Asian languages and civilizations with concentration Chinese. And I did consider going into creative writing. I actually took my first creative writing course when I was in my sophomore year, and it was writing for children, like young adults and middle grade. And while I really enjoyed the course, it kind of felt weird to me after doing writing so long on my own, like in my own time, to have to do it for a grade. And especially since I was already so invested in my longer length projects, like I was drafting a novel at that point, that it felt weird to have to do like random assignments for that class. Like things like, okay, write a character for this assignment or write a world. And I was like, I'm doing all this stuff, but in my own stuff, and it feels weird to have to turn this in for a grade. Yeah. So I guess like coming out of that class, I realized like I am very happy with the decision I made, which was to major in something that wasn't creative writing or English, just because it kind of gives my mind like the breathing space it needs after with the fact that I'm writing so much in my free time. It's really good to be able to do some psychology or to read some like Chinese fiction. So yeah, that's my college experience. I guess I would say psych maybe influences my writing. My people who read my stuff say that my characters are all very psychologically weird. But other than that, I would just say it doesn't, I can't say like psych has helped me write so much better. I can't say that, but I don't regret the decision.
If I could add something real quick, I forgot to say. So Joan made me think of this. Writing does not pay well. It does not.
Good to remember.
That is a fact. I managed to live on what I made writing from the time I was 16 to the time I was 24. And now I am back at school getting a degree in something that will make me money while my parents pay my way through school. So listen, children, if you are not lucky enough to have parents who will pay your way to go to school again, it might be helpful to major in something that will get you a job. And I know that that's not a nice, happy thing to say, but that's reality. You got to eat, and writing will not feed you.
True.
Double majors.
Double majors.
Minors.
I'm right
or
now
doing whatever.
I'm working to getting my master's in sign language interpreting right now because it is good, steady work, and I like it.
That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, that has nothing to do with writing, so shut up. Use the microphone.
That's okay. I'm always interested in writers' plans to what they do professionally. Like I know we talked to Susan Dennard when she was at our conference, and she's had this whole other career. And so many of our speakers are all like in science. It's so interesting.
People don't talk about it a lot. I think maybe because some people want you to think that they're doing better than they are. And
right, yeah.
No one wants to admit that they're not making ends meet. And a lot of people have circumstances. They have a spouse who earns money.
Yeah.
They have parents who will help them out. And if you're a single person living alone, you have less expenses than someone who has children and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. So every person's situation is different. Anytime you know how much money someone is getting, you are incorrect. Books. I have people say that call me a best-selling author because they've heard my name before. And I'm like, oh, honey, no. And people assume that all the books they hear about are making a lot of money, and they're not. There was some study the other day. What? Did you guys see this? It was on Twitter. It was like 80-something or maybe more than that % of books published in England. So I don't know anything about books published in England, though, but they sell less than 3,000 copies.
Oh, my God.
It's not
My
good.
day job is publishing. Get a day job. Get a day job. Oh my God, get a day job.
Yeah, get a day job.
Yeah.
I mean, I managed to. People ask me all the time, they're like, can you support yourself with your writing yet? And I'm like, I could support myself with my writing before your verb tenses are incorrect. So it's not something that, and even if you have a great year, I had known tons of people who took a year off from work when they got a big advance, and then they had to go back to work. So it's not, you never know what's going to happen. And you also never know when the money's going to come in. It's like, oh, when the check's in the mail. Okay, I'll have it in 7 months. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was reading Virginia Woolf lately, and this is what her whole book, A Room of One's Own, is about. I had to write a whole essay about it. So, and her big thing is about money and writers and women and all this stuff. And so her big advice is to try and get money, but to try and get money in a way that does not crush your soul.
Yeah.
So get another major, get a day job, but get one that doesn't crush your soul.
And do write for hire stuff if you can get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good gig. And
exactly.
just get whatever you can get. Anthologies are good. If anyone ever offers to put you in an anthology, take them up on that. Oh shit, I have to write an anthology. Yes, I'm sorry.
When it just hits you, the work you have to do for Monday.
Yeah, but like
God.
that's me getting paid for it, so it's like school but better.
I
So
still have nightmares that I have homework assignments to do, and that was like 2 years ago that I graduated.
and then I went back to school, and now the nightmares are reality. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. Moving on. Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. My Twitter on my phone is breaking. So I'm not getting questions from people anymore. So we're going to switch briefly to my pre-prepared questions, and then hopefully it'll start to work again. But also at this juncture, I'd like to remind everybody that is watching to go to chapter1conference.com and click on our raffle copter, because we're giving away, and this time I will mention that we are giving away a signed copy of the book Gemina. We had people that came to the con this year that were so excited about this book. And I have not personally read it. I have a preference for shorter novels, and this thing is like, whew. But absolutely, if you're a fan, even if you just love long books or long, I think it's science fiction, which is really like engrossing.
I read it.
It's good. Promo.
It's good.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Does it have a lot of long paragraphs?
No,
I think
it
it's
does
like-
not. It does not, Hannah.
Hannah's like, I'm skipping it.
You said long book. I was like,
I work for the agent who sold Illuminae, so don't listen to me.
over 300 pages, I'm like, this is for somebody else.
That's how I feel too.
I'm a slow reader. Why read one book when you could read 2 books? Sorry.
It's fair.
All right. So I have a question. This one my roommate helped me come up with too. She's like, do these guys have hobbies? Like, they seem like they write all the time. Do they have hobbies? Do you have hobbies?
I don't. Unless running myself into the ground is a hobby. I work a full-time job, so 40 hours a week. I'm a copy editor and a proofreader, so I am all book. I'm going to turn into a book probably. But actually, I really like the company I'm with, and it sort of like renews me to see some of the material we get, because some of it's really horrible, and I'm just like, oh, I gotta finish my book. I gotta put something better in the world. So it just like renews my soul. And then I go home and I write or film a YouTube video, whatever. And then if I get all my writing for the day done, I try to like read or watch Netflix, things like that. I'm not a very exciting person. On the weekends, sometimes I like to go out and explore. Like I said, I live close to Atlanta, so I like to go to the city, hang out, look around, adventure a little bit. But that's pretty much it. I don't do that much.
Let's see. I also work a full-time job. I'm an agent's assistant, so I'm also all book all the time. I will join you in becoming a book. We can
Good.
But it means I spend a lot of time in query inboxes, which is both good for and bad for your spirit. It's interesting. Guys, like 85% of what lands in a query inbox would make most of the people who are stressing about querying on Twitter. I'm like, no, you guys don't understand. You're experts comparatively. But when I'm not doing that, I guess I have hobbies. I do have hobbies that aren't writing. It's just that writing I care about so much more. So I do everything else when I've either burnt myself out or I've been forcibly dragged out of my room by my friends who are like, you need to see sunlight. So I like origami. I'm pretty good at it, and it's like a good stress reliever for me to like make something with my hands. So my room is full of really complicated origami because I'm not good at doing simple tasks. I have to distract myself with like 4 things at once. I guess music is kind of a hobby. I used to play piano really intensely, and then I quit, but sometimes I still play around. What else? Not exercise, I'll tell you that. I sleep sometimes. Yeah. I think that counts.
I don't write all the time by any stretch of the imagination. First of all, I write like a few weeks, and then I don't write for a few months, and then I write for a few weeks again. So I'm really on and off. So I'm definitely not in the write everyday club. No. So I have lots of time, which I waste. I'm studying to be a sign language interpreter, like I said, so I'm in school 3 days a week. I am not all books all the time because I don't like most books, so I avoid them. I knit, I play Sims, I play a lot of Pokemon, I go on Twitter and tell people to find me a wife. That's most of what I do is just, you guys have probably seen me on Twitter being like, I need a wife, where's my wife? That's like most of what I tweet. I'm really active in political stuff because you have to be. And I have 4 cats and I live alone with them. So that's my hobby, is being a cat lady who tweets a lot about needing a wife and doesn't write or read. I watch a lot of documentaries.
Oh yeah, does reading count as a hobby?
I would say so.
Add that.
I have not finished a book since this summer, okay?
Oh my God.
I'm a nightmare. Like for every writer who's reading like 1,000 books a year, I read like 3.
Wow.
And it's because I used to read everything and I know what I like, and it's not very much. I cannot remember the last time I was surprised that I liked something. Like I know when I look at a book, I'm like, I'm not interested in this. So, and I'm also a slow reader, so it's a big commitment for me to sit down with a book. Oh no, you know what? I finished a book. No, never mind. That was this summer, but it was really good. But it was this summer. So yeah, it's been a while. I mean, I'm always reading something. I'm always reading personal essays and shit online. I'm always reading articles. I read short stories, but I don't sit down and read a lot of books. I read about a lot of books. I read a ton of book reviews. So I always know what's going on, what's out there, what people think about it, which I think is important. Sorry, that's my dad's phone playing Ode to Joy in the background. But
Beautiful.
I know all the notes on piano. That's my piano skills. I can E, F, G, G, F, G, G. Yeah, I don't do anything. I just have a chronic illness that makes me really tired, and I sleep a lot. Mm-hmm. That's what I do. And I do sign language. So contact me for your sign language skills. I am not certified. So, okay. And we're off. Sorry about talking so long about literally nothing.
You're fine.
I think I'd probably fall into the book all day club just because I'm a really slow writer. So if I don't write every single day, then nothing comes out because I'm just incredibly slow. So I guess like when I do burn out and I have to stop from writing, or if I'm waiting on feedback for something, I don't feel like diving into something new, then I just like to engage in other forms of stories, whether that be watching anime or movies or dramas. I will read too, but like Hannah, I am a picky reader, which I always feel like I'm the odd one out because everyone else around me reads like all the books coming out. And I'm someone who definitely vets books beforehand by reading the reviews because I do know very much what I like and what I don't like. So I don't read that much, but when I do, like, I'll read a book pretty quickly. As otherwise, then other than that, I like to bake and I like to do art, which are both really hard to do in college because it's hard to bake in college and it's hard to like set up like legit art space in college. So when I do art, I do a bit of digital art, just drawing on a tablet. And yeah, those are my hobbies.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to work this one in before we inevitably like run out of time because we always run out of time. But this is our like classic chapter 1 conference. All of our speakers answer this question. And it is, if you could be an item on the Panera Bread menu, what item would you be and why?
Okay, wait, I have a question. Is this like which one best sums up our personality, or is this like which one is our goal to be?
People have answered it in just a myriad of different ways. Some people are just like, I don't like Panera Bread, next question. Like, we've gotten a lot of different answers.
I feel like I need to look at the menu to prepare.
Yeah, I should have Googled this. You told us you were going to ask this question. I did not prepare.
All right, I got one. I am just a bad Jew in general. because I was raised by I'm a halfie, so even though I consider myself Jewish, I practice Judaism. I was raised in this like bastardized halfie house, so I would be one of their shitty bagels. That's not really a bagel. Maybe like the cinnamon crunch one. That's not a bagel. I know someone who said she didn't like bagels, and it's you, Kat. I know you're watching. Who said she didn't like bagels because she only had Panera bagels, and then I got a real bagel and she liked them. So I'm some half-ass bagel.
Subpar Panera bagel.
I want to be a blueberry bagel. I'll be that one.
Does anybody else have a Panera
bagel?
I'm gonna go with the mac and cheese because number one, it's amazing. And number two, I used to get the broccoli cheddar soup all the time, but then I became a vegetarian and I found out they use chicken stock in it, which
Really?
is, yeah.
No wonder it's so good.
Yeah, but that's a bastardization of broccoli and cheddar soup because why is there chicken in it?
No, I've got to warn my sister. She's a vegetarian now.
Ooh, I hate to ruin that for her. But anyway, the mac and cheese is still fine and I can still eat that. So I'm going to go with that. And mac and cheese is amazing.
Oh my god.
I think I would just. Did you want to go, Christine?
No, I am staring at the menu. Please go.
Honestly, I think I would just be the baguette that comes with the salad because I remember getting a salad from there once and it was really bad, but then I ate the baguette and I was like, it's all good now. So
There's something so sad about that. Just like I come with the salad.
But I mean, you're the palate cleanser. You make a bad experience. Like you make it better. So
salad comes with you. Okay. The salad is honored to be sitting there next to you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much just made of carbs because it's all I eat. So I think it's pretty representative.
Me too. Me too.
I think I'm just black coffee, aesthetic on the outside and bitter on the inside.
I love it.
I went for simple but effective. I could also say that I'm soup in a bread bowl, but that's just because I love the idea of a bread bowl. I don't have a personality explanation for that. I don't think I'm a bread bowl. That shit gets real soggy.
Guys, my Twitter is being so weird. Oh, here we go.
You want me to find a question?
That would be fantastic. I'm sorry, it just keeps like switching pages. There might be something wrong with my phone.
Oh no.
I'm not sure.
Alrighty, let's find a question.
Find a fun one.
Yeah, you guys can host now. I can just go, right?
They don't know who they are. They don't know that I don't like this question.
Don't leave us.
I'll stay, it's fine.
If you have a question, you should tweet it right this second.
I think there was a question that was down below by someone by the name of, was it Zoe or I think there's a Zoe question.
I like this one.
I saw that.
Brett asked, who are your main auto-buy authors and why?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Your main what?
We talk about other writers, so this is
auto-buy, got it. I was like, wait, auto-bisexual? I was so confused.
Auto-bisexual,
I would also answer questions about that.
World.
What does that mean? All right, Briana, do you want to start? Or, oh no, Hannah's got one.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Since I only like 2 authors, it's pretty easy for me because I'm fiercely loyal to my authors. And my authors are Jacqueline Moriarty and E. Lockhart. And,
nice. Love E. Lockhart.
E. Lockhart likes my book, so
oh god.
That's so cool.
My book is number 1 on her list of favorite books on her website. So I signed a copy for her and met her daughter. So
oh my god,
amazing.
Were there tears though?
I cried, but I actually held myself together at the time. But she recognized me and said, "This is Hannah. She's also a writer to her daughter. So you're welcome, world." For my
oh my god.
I also dated a girl who hugged Barack Obama. So again, you're welcome.
I'm just getting all this by proxy love, and it's
amazing.
All of this on the world, but no, Jacqueline Moriarty, E. Lockhart are my girls, and
wow.
And Melina Marchetta. Shit, I should not have forgotten her person. Those 3, I don't really care about. But those 3, and usually Australian stuff that comes out of Australia is good.
Yeah.
So. I forget that E. Lockhart is an Australian, which I think is like the biggest compliment that I can give an author is forgetting that you're not Australian if you're not Australian. So anyway, yes, now that I have snuck in a lot of bragging, which I'm not about because I feel like it makes it less gross if you're not sneaky. Jacqueline Moriarty, Melina Marchetta. That's my girls. And I'm shelved next to Jacqueline Moriarty to throw in one more brag that has
There you go.
quality. Moriarty, Moscowitz.
All right. Anybody else? This is just a free for all, I think.
Okay,
Anybody can go.
I can go.
I wanted to go where people said my authors because you said some of them. So I had to get in because I love Jacqueline Moriarty and Melina Marchetta and Eda Lockhart, but she's not auto-buy, but I think I have all her books, so maybe she is.
She's not.
No, okay. Maggie Stiefvater, Leigh Bardugo, Libba Bray, Holly Black. Oh my god, I can't.
Bray gave me a Viking hat once.
Oh God.
I can't emotionally, like, if I met any of these 4 people in person, I would be a mess, so I can't, but I will buy and read all their books and, like, tweet terrifying things at them about how I, like, wish I could write like that. Oh my god. And also just, I think that I don't always want to write like the people whose writing I enjoy reading the most, but I think I learn a lot from all 4 of these people's books. Like every time I read their books, it's like a craft lesson, but I'm also so entertained and like feeling like 80 things at once. Oh, and Victoria Schwab. Okay, now I'm done.
I can go if mine I would say Victoria Schwab. I just got into her stuff and oh my god, I'm way late to the hype train, but she is so good. And Gillian Flynn, Leanne Moriarty, Paula Hawkins, and Emma Cline, even though she just debuted and I just finished The Girls, but oh my god, she notices things and puts things in descriptions that I would never think to write about, and God, it's so good. But I just realized that all my favorite authors are women, so woo! Keep kicking ass, ladies.
Yeah, I would have to second Leigh Bardugo. I love all her fantasy. I also really love Ruta Sepetys. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I love all her historical young adult. It's so good. And I really admire Lauren DeStefano's writing. And yeah, those are probably my auto-buys.
Thank you. All right. One last reminder to go to our Rafflecopter, chapter1conference.com. We are giving away plenty of books. One of them had such a cool title. Let me find it. I'm sorry, I'm so unprepared at this point. I was really good in the beginning and then it all just fell apart. There's one with just the coolest title and I want to read it super badly after I saw The Sin Eater's Daughter. Has anybody heard of this?
That's a good book. I read that
I've heard of that book.
I need it now. I can't have this one because we're giving it away to people who enter a Rafflecopter.
And then win it.
I'm going to go get my own because this sounds fantastic.
You should get Brianna's dad to enter the Rafflecopter on your...
Yeah, and then I can maybe hook you up if he wins.
Please do.
I
Or
might.
you can keep it. That's okay too.
Did you know
I'm pretty sure I have a copy.
Sister? That's my fun fact for you. In case you didn't know that. My mom reads Leanne Moriarty and I read Jacqueline Moriarty, so...
I didn't know that, but that makes a lot of sense, and I guess I'll have to read Jacqueline Moriarty now.
Oh, Jacqueline. Year of Secret Assignments. The Ghost of Ashbury High is... I just reread it, and it's maybe the most incredible book I've ever read. And it's the book that I give to anyone who says, oh, you can't be this complicated in YA, because it is weird.
I need to write it down. I think I actually read The Year of Secret Assignments. That's a little older.
Then you'll be right in for Ashbury. Ashbury's the sequel, but you don't actually have to have read.
It's like a companion novel.
Okay.
Yeah. And
it's like Graceling Into Fire. You gotta read that book. Oh my god.
I'm writing books down left and right over here.
And it's long, and I still read it, so.
Oh. No long paragraphs?
You know what? It's epistolary, so it kind of does have long paragraphs. I wrote an epistolary book with Kat, and I told her before we started, I said, you have to read Ghost of Ashbury High. I'm not going to write an epistolary with someone who has not read this book. So.
One of my dreams is to write an epistolary novel. I'm going to read this.
Oh, that's so fun. I don't want to read it.
Yeah, I know. I looked everybody
Plug.
up, you know.
You should buy it, and then I'll get some money. I won't. That's not how publishing works.
Okay, so my Twitter came back while you guys were having this lovely discussion, and there's a lot of debate about whether or not Panera Bagels are good.
I know.
So that's happening.
Look, I saw this.
That's happening.
Hannah started a flame war.
No, I gotta get you to work. I say in my.
Who is this person's nemesis? who's coming up that I mentioned, I want to know.
You guys named some of my nemesis as your favorite authors, but I didn't say shit.
I have no idea what's going on.
I wish I had a nemesis. That sounds exciting.
The thing is, you guys, I've been in this since 2009, right? So I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of their shit. So like a lot of these authors that are like, oh, I like this author. I'm like, oh, I know all this shit about her as a person. And sometimes that's very good.
After I started just to like dip my toes into the writer community on Twitter, I started to learn things I didn't want to learn, like what my favorite authors look like. Like I didn't want to know that. I didn't want to know what anybody looked like or what anybody did with their free time. Didn't want to know.
But then you keep asking us about our hobbies and shit, and making us be interested.
No, that's my job now. That's my job now. So I've just accepted it. I didn't want it, but it's the Twitter life chose me.
It's your
It's like
destiny.
the real life version of killing your darlings.
That's very true.
Yes. Okay, so I have a question about one more writing question and one more silly question, and then we can finish up. Sound good? So we have a question from Katie Nichols, who is a Chapter 1 attendee and a really cool person. And she asks, plotter or pantster, and what is your plotting method?
Oh God, are we starting with me for this one, or?
If you don't have anything, we can start with someone else. But if no one has anything,
I can
then-
start if
I can go.
Brianna, you want more time.
I would like to be last.
we could go in reverse order then. It could be Joan. Yeah, Joan, Hannah, Christine.
Okay.
Okay. So I definitely started out as a pantser 100%, and I was really proud of pantsing until I had to rewrite books. So yeah, I would say definitely for me, I'm trying to convert to being more of a plotter. I don't think I'll ever 100% be someone who can like write out every single thing that happens in each chapter, just because it kind of takes out like, for me, the magic of writing, because I don't really get to discover my characters or the story in the way that I want to if I'm just writing based off like a really strict outline. But something that I've been doing is trying to follow the 7 structure act that my Pitch Wars friends have recommended. I just find it really helpful to have a general sense of like what my midpoint is supposed to be, or where my inciting incident is supposed to fall, or just like how to structure the last act of the book. And I think that definitely has helped me transition from being a pantser into a plotter, just like knowing the big story points. And there's so many resources out there on the internet, on the interwebs about like different methods of structuring your book. So I would just say find something that works for you and start small if you're a hardcore pantser, and don't just dive into like chapter by chapter outlines, because it's probably not going to work when you're just starting out.
I say
Is my microphone on? Sorry, I forgot. I think I forgot.
Now
to
I
mute
can
it,
hear you.
so-
I can
Sorry
hear
if there
you
was
very
an echo. I apologize. So I'm kind of a hybrid. I need to know the beginning and the end and the climax before I start, and I like to have a few. Is Brianna about to laugh at me saying the word climax down there?
No,
Okay.
I was laughing because I'm the
I
same.
was like, girl.
No, oh my God.
We're all writers here. Come on.
Climax. I mean, I laugh at it, but I think we've established I'm not really a writer, so. But no, I like to have a few scenes in my head, and they're always like weird scenes that don't have anything to do with the book. Like, I mean, they have something to do with the book, but they're not like really important. Like, there's a whole part in my fantasy book, History of Glitter and Blood, where they're at a cabin with a sheep, and it's not the most important part of the book, but that's like the image that I had, and so I usually will get like really excited about a scene, and that will keep me going. Right now I'm working on the Dirty Dancing one, and the outline's really made for me, so that's fun. And I actually mentioned on Twitter that it makes my character be a lot more proactive than normally, because she has to do these things because they're what happened in the plot. But normally I would have my character sit around and not do anything, so it's a weird experience. But that's different. So basically I know the beginning, the end, a few things that happen along the way. But in terms of the scene, I'm like, I know where I need to get at the end of the scene, and then I just make them talk and see what happens. If I do a whole outline, I get bored, because I'm already like, I've already written it, so now I don't need to write it. But you do, because money. So, yes, hybrid.
Okay, so much like Joan, I started as a total pantser. It was not good. my brain tangents in weird ways, and I end up with stuff that feels like fan fiction when I'm done with something. The first draft of The Devouring Grey, the characters, I have so many. Actually, none of this makes any sense because some of this sounds like it could be the legit plot of a book, but some of the embarrassing shit I made them do and like the embarrassing things, oh my God, I can't think about it. No, I actually can. It's really funny, but there's no point in talking about it. But I think that I am slowly becoming a little bit more of a plotter, but I will never, ever be a full plotter because a lot of my writing is gut stuff. I have to play with the characters to know where they're going. I also love endings. I'm one of few writers I've ever met who doesn't really care that much about the climax. I mean, I care, but I'm like, whatever. This is only here so I can get to the end. I love the end scenes of a book. They are my favorite part to write, and when I get that, I can usually just focus all my energy on getting the rest of the book there. Like, people usually comment like, your endings are so strong. I'm like, yeah, because they're like why I wrote the book. Like, when I know where they ended up, then I want to go on the journey with them. Like, and I get really, really hyped for it. I also cannot detail outline to the degree of writing down everything that happens because, like Hannah said, I get so bored. It would feel like I already told their story. Why on earth would it would ruin it for me personally? I know people who do that and it works for them. I will say that my outlining process is like slightly horrific to anyone who's not me because the way I make notes are in inside jokes and non sequiturs. And when I showed my Pitch Wars mentor, like when I tried to explain to her how I had gotten this far, she was like, I'm horrified for you. How did you do that? We're really, really good friends now. And I don't think she's watching, but I'll shout out to Amanda. But she was just like, you're going to need to explain it better than this to me and probably to your future agent. So I'm working on that.
Well, I'm actually glad that everybody went before me because I think I'm a combination of all of you. So that's great. I started out as a pantser because I just thought that was what you did. I just thought that was like, you weren't really a writer unless you could just make it up as you go along, which is silly because again, everyone's process is different. I have tried to make a full-on outline, like really strict scene by scene, line by line, and that doesn't work for me either. Because, you know, I feel like I've written it already if I've written the outline, and my brain is like, we're done. Don't even try. So now I kind of, I have a lot of loose plot points, and it's based on the 7-point system that's been mentioned. I like that because it gives me enough structure to where I have an idea where I'm going, but I can still sort of meander around each point and learn more about my characters. And I give myself a lot more freedom, I think, during the first draft to really do that exploration and then kind of tighten it up around the key points in the second draft.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I wanted to end with a silly question. And my boyfriend, who's watching, keeps texting me to ask this one question that we always bring up at parties, and it always causes a huge kerfuffle. All right, so you ready for a kerfuffle? I'm not even gonna like call on people for this. Everybody just needs to fight about it. All right, ready? Are hot dogs sandwiches?
No, are you fucking kidding me?
No.
Yes, I agree with you.
No,
the
it's
bread
not.
is not evenly split in half. It's not a sandwich.
I feel like I can't even weigh in because I don't eat hot dogs.
Who the shit thinks a hot dog is a sandwich?
But it's not a sandwich.
Most
It's
people
not
I
a
ask this
sandwich.
question to, they're like, well, technically, it
No.
is meat
Are they
between
hard?
bread.
No.
A
Now that's
sandwich
their
is like
argument.
this, and a hot dog is like this. So no.
Well, but then
Yeah.
they bring up meatball sandwiches. Like, it's pretty much the same thing.
Okay,
He's
well
very
that's
excited.
also gross. So I can't.
Also gross.
Would you call a
Hot dogs
bagel
are
a
not
donut?
sandwiches. I'm offended by this conversation.
All right. Joan, did you weigh in? I don't know how you feel.
I mean, like, I'm with everyone else. I don't think it's a sandwich. I think it has to be, like, vertically stacked, probably.
A sandwich can have
Okay.
multiple things on it, and a hot dog has one thing on it.
Except a grilled
My-
cheese. Grilled cheese just needs the cheese.
That's true.
My
But
argument
that's a
is
sandwich.
Now I'm hungry. I'm gonna make my mom make me a grilled cheese
I'm
sandwich.
so hungry.
all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna
So
eat
that's
meat.
good that we reached a consensus very quickly. Here, though, you're all pretty similar to myself. So it's possible, I'd like to think so. We have very similar interests. We're all here.
I'm
So,
just
like,
hot dogs.
I'd like to think that we're the type of person that feels that way, but I will probably see it on Twitter. There is a type of person that does not feel that way.
I'm
That
gonna block.
person can fight
They
me.
get
I'm going to block.
heated about this.
I
So,
will
like,
meet them
I wish I
outside.
will get into a Twitter thread.
Hundreds of thousands, and I will add the hot dog people to this list. I block just indiscriminately.
Block list. Done.
Someone's like, I'm a libertarian. I'm like, no, you're not bi. Like,
I like the person on Twitter saying that a hot dog isn't even a food.
I would agree with that.
Oh, sub question: is a cheeseburger a sandwich?
no,
Like a
it's a
burger.
No,
Burger-
it's a
see,
burger.
It's its own thing.
Right. but
Yeah.
It's got like the sandwich components, which is with the complication. I feel it's a taxonological issue. Like if you start calling everything sandwiches, then nothing's a sandwich, and it gets all confusing.
Where does it end?
Yeah, but there's other words for other specific
There's no
things.
decency in this world. No, it's because you have to prepare the meat separately. Like the meat being prepped on its own is part of it being a burger. Ditto with a hot dog.
Eating sandwiches.
Mm-hmm. My roommate's contributing too, because this is just.
I wish I had the time to think this deeply about sandwiches.
All right. So take that with you, drop it at a party, and then walk away. Have fun with it. Thank you for answering that question. That was really
Of course.
I
You
feel
said to
vindicated.
beat out my enemy.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, one last reminder, please check out our Rafflecopter. Also, we have speaker announcements for our Chapter 1 conference in August coming soon.
Where's the conference? I'm
The
clearly.
conference is in Chicago.
Ooh.
It's awesome. Every year it's in Chicago. We have a new venue this year, so you can check it out. I don't have like the exact address or anything, but all the info is like, it's a pinned tweet on our Twitter. It's on our website, which you should have been going to all night long to check
Enter
the
the raffle.
Rafflecopter. But so we'll have our announcements pretty soon. We're really excited about it. Like, we're so excited about this. And we're so excited about our speakers for the conference. We're just collecting all these wonderful people, and it's so much fun. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for the Rafflecopter. Thank you guys all so much for watching. We've had like a pretty consistent little viewer base all night, and it's been wonderful. So thank you guys.
Yay.
Bye-bye.